Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. We're back in the room with the Yes Guys sign behind me, and today is the first time that I've made a video since, well, Lampard sacked. Thomas Tuchel is now the new Chelsea manager. Welcome to Chelsea Football Club, Mr. Thomas Tuchel. In this video today, you guys saw my pretty much live reaction. If you saw my last video where I talked about Lampard being sacked, where I gave my initial emotion-driven response to the news, which surprised a lot of people, but also when we really break things down in a footballing sense, it also didn't surprise us either. However, yesterday it was a bit odd. You know, I felt like I was going through a breakup. Even though I spent the whole day like going around Bali adventuring with my girlfriend, it felt like I was actually going through a breakup. And I had to explain to her, like, it's not you, babe, it's me, you know, like, it's my team, it's my love, it's Frank Lampard. How do we just get over something like this, you know? It's not as easy as just being like, okay, well, here we go. But in the nature of what football is and what it means to me, and I'm sure of what it means to you, we now have to go forward with what we have available to us, and it's not like we've just been, you know, we've been given flipping, what's his face, Alan Pardew as a manager. We've gone and got one of the best managers in Europe, supposedly. So, despite our sentiment towards Lampard, it's time to start looking forward to life at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel. Before we get into today's video, where I'm going to talk about some of the key things that Tuchel needs to do in the immediate and also throughout the rest of this season, I'd love to ask you to subscribe to GBFC. If you're not yet doing so, be sure to hit the button and turn on bell notifications so that you never miss a video. I was going to post something yesterday, but I actually feel as though that little breakup put me through. I got a bloody fever. I fell asleep last night at about 7 o'clock in the evening, so I think I was just trying to avoid the heartbreak of losing Super Frank Lampard, who of course, as with pretty much any Chelsea fan, or should I say proper Chelsea fan, we wish him the very best for his future in management, whatever it may be. And I also think, before we put the whole Lampard story to bed, I do want to, you know, finish by talking a little bit more about it. I do believe that what Frank Lampard did at his time as Chelsea manager, now that, you know, we can't continue losing games and blaming Frank for what goes wrong on the pitch, from this point on, it is nothing to do with Frank Lampard. It's all about the players and maybe even the new manager if he doesn't work very well with the new players. We're going to talk about his temperament and his management style a little bit later on in this video. What Lampard did during his time at Chelsea, despite this bad run of form, which we're currently sat in 10th place in the Premier League table, however, it is still very close. A couple of wins in a row, and it already looks a lot prettier. So, breaking down what Lampard did for us, bringing through the youth academy, acting with no ability to sign players in his first ever window as Chelsea boss, finishing top 4, FA Cup final, winning us the Champions League group this season with ease, going on that 17-game unbeaten run, introducing so many new players to this side. The majority of Chelsea players have all come out on social media saying how great it felt to play under Frank Lampard, how they admired the way that he was coaching them and what it meant for them. So, you know, I think Lampard's legacy at Chelsea isn't hindered whatsoever based off of this sacking. I think it's certainly not the end of the story from Frank Lampard as a manager and Chelsea Football Club. I think maybe 5-10 years time I might not be sat in this room because I'm moving out on Monday, but we might be talking about Frank Lampard again as Chelsea boss one day in the future. I don't think it is something that tarnishes his reputation. But now, it is time to be progressive again here on GBFC. Sentiment aside, emotions aside, we've got ourselves a new manager. And it's Thomas Tuchel, the German, the man who has been brought in with pedigree of winning major competitions with Paris Saint-Germain, which, you know, arguably it's not the hardest feat to achieve in the French league, which isn't the most competitive. However, over recent years, it has been a bit more competitive, but he's done very well over there with them, and there's been a lot of talks about potential fallouts with certain players at Paris Saint-Germain. But I think from what we've read about Thomas Tuchel, as all of the news has dropped about him taking over at Chelsea, the biggest thing, which might not bode well for his Chelsea future, but he was falling out with the Paris Saint-Germain board based off of probably what Paris Saint-Germain wanted to do in the market, how they wanted certain players to be treated, and then what his views as a manager and a tactician, and there was conflict in there. So, based off of that, maybe in terms of the long-term future for Tuchel at Chelsea, if he is going to fire up at the board, we know that there is no man in the world that can stand up to the Chelsea board and not expect the axe to proverbially come down and chop it off. So I don't think Thomas Tuchel maybe knows what he's getting himself into in terms of conflict, or potential conflict with the Chelsea board. We've seen with the treatment of Lampard, whether we agree with it or not, that, you know, there is absolutely nothing that can be discussed with this Chelsea board. If they don't like what they're seeing and they're not happy with results, get out. You know what I mean? It's pretty self-explanatory now, and I think the way that I'm going to approach this Tuchel era as Chelsea manager is I'm going to be a lot harder. You know, if we play worse, I'm going to be... You know, I feel like with the whole Lampard project, I was sometimes holding back as a fan if things weren't going well in individual matches, because the bigger picture and the longer term plan that I saw with Lampard, I was buying into that more than immediate results. However, now that Chelsea have made this statement of sacking Lampard, bringing Tuchel in, I feel as though it is everything that the club is doing now is 100% focused on results. It's not focused on stabilising anymore. It's not focused on bringing through the youth players. It is simply results need to be good. And I think if Tuchel doesn't come in and hit the ground running, then, you know, the Chelsea fan base is distraught by what happened to Lampard. And if Tuchel comes in and it doesn't go well immediately, not only is he going to come under a lot of criticism from fans, which, by the way, Chelsea, you know, in terms of avoiding that backlash that was inevitable if they were to sack Lampard, doing it before fans are allowed back in the stadium was absolutely genius from the Chelsea board. They can't have people there in Stamford Bridge kicking up a fuss like they did when Rafa Benitez took charge at Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel's never done anything wrong to Chelsea Football Club. However, when a club legend and icon leaves the club, whoever comes in straight after, because a lot of the fans think it was unjust, they're under immediate pressure. And I think it actually benefits Thomas Tuchel that fans aren't currently allowed in the grounds, that Chelsea's form recently has been so poor, and that with such a good squad available at his disposal, you know, if he can implement his tactics fast, we saw that he actually took over a training session yesterday evening, which, considering he only signed for Chelsea yesterday, apparently the contract was in talks for a few days. He was only announced yesterday, and he immediately took a training session to meet the players in the evening. What we understand about Thomas Tuchel is that despite this sometimes conflict within the dressing room and with the board of the clubs, he can actually be a very charming man, and the way that he actually manages individuals is often something that gets the best out of a lot of the players that he coaches. So, considering there was a lot of talk about unrest within the Chelsea dressing room, I'm actually glad I didn't make a video on this yesterday, because I think I made the mistake of looking at social media a little bit too much before we heard from the horse's mouth regarding certain individual players, you know, forcing Lampard out of the club. Now, I don't want to sit here and say I don't believe in any of that now that I've just read Tammy Abraham come out and defend Rudiger and Azpilicueta. I don't fully believe it, because I think there is, you know, diplomacy that goes on within Chelsea Football Club. Players know they need to protect one another, particularly when it's senior players that are being criticised. And I think it is a good PR move from Chelsea to, you know, have players come out and back some of their teammates, considering it's unlikely they're going to be sold in this January window. What I think about that at this point, I don't really want to raise it, because I feel as though I don't want to fuel any more negativity about Lampard's sacking. I just want to accept it now and move on to the new life under Thomas Tuchel. You know, we could see an immediate improvement in results. It's been a case with Chelsea managers over the years that when managers do come in, things often start very well. You know, there's a new lease of life, there's a new injection of energy, which I think if we look at Lampard's downfall in his last few weeks was probably one of the major things. Players looked like they didn't have much energy, and I think if I was to summarise where I think it went wrong for Lampard in a nutshell, I feel as though as a manager he didn't have enough experience to be able to formulate a plan that the players could understand quickly enough to be able to go out and execute on the pitch. I don't think Lampard was as assured as a coach to manage a team of such high caliber individuals yet. So for me, that's where I think it went wrong. However, Thomas Tuchel has managed some of the biggest personalities in football. That Paris Saint-Germain dressing room is not an easy one to control, with the likes of Neymar in there. You got Mbappe, you got Di Maria, you had Thiago Silva, which is big news. Obviously, Thiago Silva played under him before, as did Christian Pulisic at Borussia Dortmund. There is a lot of things to get excited about with Thomas Tuchel. In the past, he's liked to play with a 4-3-3, Recently at Paris Saint-Germain, he went with a 4-2-4 or a 4-2-2-2. I can never say that formation properly. He also went with a 3-5-2, which, again, I'm excited to see two strikers playing on the field for Chelsea. I would certainly back that one with Tammy Abraham, who deserves to be up there at the moment after the hat-trick at the weekend, and trying to get the best out of Timo Werner as a strike partner. Maybe we will see that in his first match as Chelsea manager tonight as Chelsea host Wolves at Stamford Bridge. I am going to be doing a brand new video about that one after this one goes out today, so if you want to hit the like button on this video, get it to as many likes as possible. I'll release my Wolves preview. It's going to be tough to really know what Tuchel's going to do. Is he going to go with listening to the Chelsea backroom staff saying this is what's been working well recently when it has worked well, or does he just go straight out there and try and implement his own formation to really make a statement as to what he tries to want to do, or what he wants to try to do, with this Chelsea team tactically and shape-wise moving forward. That being said, I probably have spent more of this video talking about the rational reason behind Lampard's sacking than I actually have welcoming Thomas Tuchel to Chelsea. It is still a bitter pill to swallow at this moment in time. However, I back Tuchel as a manager. I know in the video that I made regarding future Chelsea managers a couple weeks ago that I said it would be a case of rinse and repeat. And at this moment in time, the fact he signed an 18-month contract I think is good, because we know now how quickly the Chelsea board can turn on managers, and I don't think I'm ever going to try and buy into the idea again of someone actually staying here for the long term. Di Matteo wins an FA Cup and a Champions League, gets fired by November. This is the club that we support. But anyway, tonight, big game, Wolves at home. I'll be doing a match preview in a couple of hours, so make sure you're subscribed to GBFC so that you don't miss it. And also be sure to hit the like button if you did enjoy today's video. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you all later. Come on, you Blues.